Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth. Find one thing to move your business forward today with conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen and follow and subscribe on social media. Dear Business Coach pages and groups. Dear Business Coach podcast. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. All right. Well, and Dr. Carrie Graham, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to the Dear Business Coach podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth. I'm excited to have conversation with you that will help your audience improve their training programs and ultimately improve their businesses.
So this is fascinating for me. I have not had an opportunity to dive into detail like this, so you'll have to forgive me and take me from the beginning, as well, as far as what does your day-to-day look like, and what kinds of questions should I be asking you. And your profile here, by the way, your website is drcarriegraham.com. That's Carrie with a C-C-A-R-R-I-E, Graham, Graham, excuse me. And you're a fractional learning solutions architect, workplace learning strategist, and president and founder of COG Learning and Solutions, LLC. Is that right?
That's me. That is me in the flesh.
And so we had talked before a little bit, and you had given me some insight into, kind of the, you have a platform of wanting to build confidence and encouragement and finding learning solutions. But before I make assumptions, please tell me, what does a fractional learning solutions architect do?
Right. So the work that I do is I am not a permanent part of an organization's team, and that's intentional, but rather I am invited in and I take a comprehensive look, right? So I'm looking at all aspects of the business in an effort to gather information about how are they training and what are the successes or the strengths, as well as some of the limitations of a training program. For example, if an organization is using onboarding as a critical part of their business functions, but they find that people are getting into doing the work, but unfortunately they are not doing the things that they were onboarded, to do. I'm able to see that from a bird's eye view lens and then help the business identify a clear strategy to making sure that that doesn't happen anymore, because ultimately that wastes time and money. For the smaller and new business owners, you ask the question, like, what are the questions that I should be asking? Here's a perfect question that new business owners should ask themselves. If they have a training program, are the people that I trained asking me to repeat myself, or redo the training? That is a red flag that, you know what, there's something in the training that is missing the mark. And that's an opportunity to remedy it and to make sure that you don't have to spend your time answering questions that were presented in the training or redoing the training as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, now this is in your about section. I do see you use the word dedicated over 25 plus years to enhancing employee and client performance through innovative training programs. And you say our team specializes in creating training plans that align with your business values and drive measurable results, reducing stress and increasing efficiency. Do you find that business owners come to you from a place of stress? I mean, can you recognize could I recognize as a business owner that there is a way to design training that will perpetuate and be successful versus trying to hire somebody else to redo my training every time I run into a roadblock.
Yeah, I am not an advocate of, I've seen this a lot where business owners, I'm gonna respond to you in reverse, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I've seen so often where business owners are repeatedly hiring someone to help them, even with a new idea that they may have around a training. That goes against everything I believe in. I've come to embrace that I'm an educator at heart. And so when I work with clients, my goal is to provide you not only a solution to the problem you have right now, but it's also to teach you the skills along the way so that in the future, if there's a new training that you want to create, or if there is a major update that you need to make, you're empowered to do it on your own. At least get it started on your own. So that's that. But how do you know if you are having a problem, like as it relates to the stress? I would say if you have a sense of worry constantly, like a constant feeling of either worry or dread or confusion around, why isn't this working? What can I do to improve this? Those types of feelings and questions, then I encourage business owners to trust their gut and know that there is an opportunity there. Like something, you may not be able to identify what the thing is and what the problem is. And that's why I created the training assessment. But there's something niggling, there's something there that you're noodling on, and there's a chance to make major improvements if that's the feeling that you have.
Are you a LinkedIn user? If you are, you can join me for LinkedIn Live Audio with Elizabeth every week, usually on Mondays at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I will have a LinkedIn Live Audio where we talk about podcasting for executives who speak and podcasting for team leaders who speak. These are the themes that are currently running. If that sounds like something you're interested, visit me, Elizabeth Walker at Work, on my LinkedIn profile. Right. And if you are feeling stressed out, I think the easiest thing to do is stare, or I have a habit of staring at the problem. Like I'm going to
Mhm.
figure it out if I just look at it long enough and hard enough by myself. And then at some point there is a tipping point where I just say, I really need some I really need a different perspective.
Right.
uh,
And that's, that I'm so happy you said that, because I've been guilty of that, and so many others will do exactly that. If I stare at it long enough, like the answer is just going to reveal itself. And sometimes that's the case, sometimes. But if you think about it, think about all the time that you've spent just looking at it, just thinking about it. Like there's so much time and energy that you are spending on like crossing off everything and praying that the problem will reveal itself to you. And you could be using that time and energy either on another part of your business or on having like a fulfilling life that is not your business, right? So being present for your loved ones. And so I've, with the 25 years, I've spent more than my fair share of hours looking like that, right? Like hands on my temples, rocking, like, come on, what is the problem? What's the problem? And I've figured it out, like across multiple trainings in different contexts with different audiences. I've been able to shorten that amount of time that it takes me to figure out the problem. And ultimately, like that's my gift to you and the world is it won't take me a long time to figure out the problem. So let's save you some time, energy, and stress trying to figure out the solution.
Well, that sounds like a godsend. Is that where I would start with the training assessment that you provide as a link?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was why I created the training assessment because over the decades, and I am at a point in my life where I've been doing this work for decades, almost 3 decades, but typically the problem spans one of 6 areas or multiple, but across 6 areas. And those are the areas that I identify in the training assessment. So it's the people, right? So the end user, is there a problem with that? Is there an issue with facilitation? Is there an issue with, excuse me, the content and how the content is built? Is there a concern with the purpose of the training, right? Like, are you creating a training as a punitive measure as opposed, like, is it being reactive as opposed to proactive? Is there malalignment or misalignment with core values, right? Is it a cultural issue within the organization, right? Like the views on learning. So typically, when there's a problem, the problem is definitely in one of those 6 areas. And so I address each of those in the training assessment. There's 5 yes, no questions for each of the areas. And it's really used as a lens to help you turn your focus, right? So you're not looking at the landscape, the sea of what appears to be a complex, cloudy, and murky problem, but rather, oh, okay, based on how I answered these questions, this is where I need to, turn my focus for right now to see where I can make some improvements.
Okay. And so, right. So I am able to go in there and sort of, as you say, some yes, no answers and sort of get get a starting bullseye of sorts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the goal. That's the main purpose. And honestly, when clients hire me to help them, those are the topics that we go over first and foremost. So I took what people paid me to do with them and said, you know what, because this is a problem that is so frequently experienced by business coaches and business owners, let me break that down and put a bow on it and make it accessible to a larger audience.
Right. Making it accessible to a larger audience. If you have someone in a new business or a small business, you might find that the owner or the person who is training the team has figured out a way that works for them, and then now translating it to that team involves, I would expect, lots of different learning styles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think you had mentioned to me before that one of the things that you pay attention to in detail is that kind of helping the folks who are learning the material absorb it in different ways at different that's what part of the design is, right? This is something that's fascinating to me about your job is, the design of it, how, as you have studied and what your what your PhD is, or what that your PhD probably does for you, is gives you that actual background on how we learn this material and how we absorb it. And I'm fascinated about what you might be able to what are some insider secrets from the academic world about how we absorb information, and like as a small business owner, how could I can is it realistic for me to learn some of that from you?
Yeah, it is realistic. It is, and it's embedded in the ways in which I work with clients. That's really important to me. But for the, small business owner, one of the things I want to encourage you to consider is your content and who your audience is, right? So if you, let's just use a couple examples. If you are a restaurant owner, right? And you're hiring wait staff, for example, you've got so many different individuals, right? You've got someone who's young, this is their first time working. You've got someone who's seasoned in terms of the workforce, but this might be their first time as a waiter or waitress, as wait staff. And then you may have someone else who's built a career on being part of wait staff. You've got three very different individuals. And as the business owner, your focus, like your ultimate end goal, is that your customers, like people who come to your restaurants, have exceptional experiences.
Mhm.
That is truly your ultimate goal. But in order to achieve that goal, you have to support the people who are going to do that thing. And that's part of the training, right? So it's first, you've got to attach your goal to the training, your end goal to the training. And then when you think about those three individuals, you have to, if you're going to do one training with all three of them present, you have to give consideration to, well, I don't want to insult the person who's, an expert at being a waiter or waitress, right? By showing them how to hold a tray or take an order. But yet the person who's new also needs that information. So there are things that you can do in that training to help support all of them, such as have the more experienced person explain it to the new person while you're there. But yet it's also an opportunity for you as the business owner to say, yes, but I'd like you to, that's how you do it, but I'd like you to add this particular spin on it. That's, a trademark of ours. So that's just a very general example. We've all gone to restaurants, right? So that's a very basic example, but it lends itself to the complexity of being a business owner who is also doing the training, right?
Yeah.
It's not an easy undertaking, and I am always mindful of business owners juggling multiple roles at the same time.
Yeah. You can tell though, I have worked for, folks who are interested in the training and the learning process for and with their employees. And when someone is interested in that process, it is a whole different experience working for that organization, isn't it?
It really is. And the same holds true with um, business coaches who are the business owner, but they also have hired coaches to carry out their work or their mission. It is, in fact, the same principle, right? If you're hiring coaches to work for you, each of them brings a different experience, each of them brings a different perspective and style, but ultimately you brought them on to achieve your business's mission. And so how you train them collectively and consistently is, you got to get in the weeds in terms of how can I maximize our time together and making sure everyone is on the same page. And it's not easy. I think, and you asked about, my doctoral work and my interest in theory. This is what it has shown me, is that on the surface, it appears to be easy enough. But if you really want to do create a training that actually achieves the outcomes you want in a short window of time, like saving you resources,
Mm.
you have to have a good strategy. Well, not just a good strategy, you've got to have a clear and practical strategy to training.
Well, and so you know what? I also this is a good time for me to say that I also think that when an owner or a manager that I work for brings in a coach or an academic, I think I am paying attention to the fact that that owner is making an investment in me
Mhm.
too, and so I have a lot of respect being a part of a team working for someone who is interested in hiring someone to come in. And specifically, have you ever been a part of a team where the manager is sitting in on the training with you? And
Yeah.
that really changes the dynamic of what I think about that owner or that manager.
Mhm.
um
Yeah.
so you're not just stepping in and being a replacement for the manager. I like it when the
Absolutely.
manager wants to learn too.
Yeah, no, I am an advocate of everyone involved needs to be at the table, and I refer to it as the learning table because it's an opportunity for a shared experience. And when we're sitting at a table of any sort, right, we're sharing food, we're sharing stories, and the same holds true for learning. I view myself as a facilitator, right? So first and foremost, like behind the scenes, I'm a strategist, the architect of all of it, right? So the strategist, I'm going to come in and look at what are the best practices that need to be implemented? How can we connect those cohesively as well as comprehensively, right? So that goes on behind the scenes. And there have been instances where I've been asked, like, well, Carrie, can you facilitate this to get us started? Absolutely. And that's where what you're mentioning, right? Where I'm a part of, I've got a seat at the learning table. And in that instance, I'm facilitating the conversation. I'm not giving the manager or the leader a pass to sit in the corner, right? Watching, but rather to be an active and equal participant in the learning experience. For some reason, Elizabeth, I'm thinking of the show Undercover Boss. For some reason, it pops into my mind, right? Like when the executives or the leaders are a part of learning the task, even if they are only in it for a day, right? Or a short window of time, that it does so much for morale. It does so much for the investment that others want to make in terms of improving their skill set when that happens. And I know how important that is. And so I use that as well when I'm working with clients.
Yeah. Now, if I were to um, go through the assessment and then get in touch with you for um, a meeting, what would I expect to do first? Would I invite you on location? Would we have like a Zoom meeting, or how does the conversation start?
Yeah, so I'm located in North Carolina in the United States.
Mhm.
So I love to travel. So if anyone wants to, if you're in Australia and you want to fly me out, I'm happy to do that, right? But I I have positioned the training assessment and the next steps as this, right? So someone can look at the training assessment if they'd like to learn more about me and if it's a good fit, they can schedule a discovery call. And I refer to them as a calm consultation because, again, people are stressed, right? Like there's some level of anxiety, and I want to calm that down. So you can schedule a calm consultation and we can just have a very casual chat about what you're facing. For those that are ready to say, you know what, I need the help. This training assessment has revealed to me like now is the time, they can actually go on the website and schedule a training audit.
Mm.
What that does is that is ultimately the next step. And so during a training alignment audit, for 90 minutes, you are going to talk to me. I'm going to ask a series of questions. You're going to tell me everything you can about the problem you're having with your training, as well as some other elements of your business. And that paints a very clear picture for me. And what I'll do is use all that information, construct your report, your audit report, to again reinforce and clarify areas of improvement, opportunities to strengthen up your program. And I provide that as well. The report as well, like that's included in the audit.
Okay. Do you have, let me see. Do you have okay, here we go. So it's drcarriegraham.com/training assessment if I want to go directly there.
Yes.
Okay. Do I need to have a certain size team to need to work with you?
No, no. The qualifying factors in working with me are that you have a training program, some type of program, even if it is a one pager, right? Like you train people off of, and I've had that before, like one page of information. Yeah, if you have that all the way up to a full like extensive system. So you've got to have the content, right, that I can actually evaluate for you. And then you have to be willing to look at your training through a different lens. Like that's critical. I've had in the past, I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, I want you to do like I want you to like basically refresh my training." And
Mm,
ultimately what they wanted was for me to make design features, right? Like change the font, change the pictures, that sort of thing. I don't do that, right? Like
okay.
there was a time in my career decades ago where I did that, but that's not what I do, right? I'm really focused on the strategy. So, and sometimes it really is a hard shift for people to look at their work that they're so close to, look at it through a different lens. And so my clients that have had the best results were ready to view their work from a different lens.
So if I do only have a one pager,
Yeah, if you have a one pager and you're again rubbing your head and you're like, why isn't this working? Why, right? Like, let's say you are doing it by yourself, right? Your business is you and you're doing it and you're like, why isn't this working? Yes, I can support you in that. I can support you in that. And actually, you are really primed because I can teach you how, like, what specifically to look for in your business so that as your business grows, you'll know what to do. And you don't have to say, oh, I'm ready to make another change. Let me call Carrie and get her to help me from step one all the way through. No, I don't believe in that. Like, if that's the case, I didn't do my job, right?
Mhm.
But rather, hey, Carrie, okay, I had a new idea. I implemented it, but I got stuck in this one part. Like those are the calls.
Mm.
Those are the follow-up calls that I love getting. And because that tells me I did my job, I was able to empower them and help them develop the skills to look at their own work through that critical lens and make implementations on their own. So they were confident enough to do it on their own. But there's just this little area that they got stuck in. And that's okay. We all get stuck. We all get stuck.
Well, that is interesting because you did say the word confident a couple of times last time we met, right? And so maybe this is a good place to ask you what is the trainer motivation for you?
Yeah, yeah. So people that don't know me well, right, wouldn't they wouldn't automatically know that I'm a pretty reserved person and that public speaking is not my like rah rah rah.
Okay.
Right? Like people wouldn't think that about me. But that is who I am. And so when I first started my career, I had to do a lot of hard work in developing my confidence in standing in front of people, presenting information, having people question me publicly, and
Mm,
having to respond to them like with poise. So I understand I truly understand what it's like to have to present and not feel confident. Fast forward a couple decades, like that's still in me periodically, but I am very confident in my abilities. And so when I think about the train the trainer, not only is it for how do we train our team, right? Like as the trainer, how do we train our team from a technical perspective, right? Like
mm,
how do you build and construct a training that actually is effective? But there's also an element of, well, who are you? Right? Like, who are you, Elizabeth? Right? Like, what are your natural skills? What are your natural strengths? Let's leverage those so that when you're in front of an audience, you are truly putting your best foot forward as a trainer and you're not like in your head or you're not stumbling. Um, because those experiences end up taking away, right? We get hyper focused on, oh, I made a mistake, right?
mm,
When the people we're training, if we make it, if we shine a light on it, then they're going to look at it. If we don't shine a light on the mistake that we made, then they're not going to notice. So train the trainer, it's not only training your team members how to be better trainers technically, but it's also on a personal level.
So I have a little bit of a guided hand with you so I can kind of learn a style maybe or lean into maybe things about the training that I know I can do well and maybe ask you for help on how to fill in those things that I can't see, it sounds like too.
Yeah. Yeah, I would not what I don't do is say you need to take on this, like put on this hat, right? Like put on someone else's hat. I'm not an advocate of that, but rather every
Mm,
individual has a host of strengths, right? Like things that they are comfortable doing. Okay, well, let's figure out what those things are and let's incorporate them in your training style so that your training style is more relaxed, right?
mm,
You are comfortable doing it. For example, one of the, like, I love hearing people's stories. I love to hear people's stories. And so part of my style as a trainer and as a facilitator is to ask very pointed questions, like very clear, thought provoking, open ended questions. Why? Because if I construct a question appropriately, the person I'm speaking to is going to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And so that gives me an opportunity to one, do the thing that I enjoy, which is listening to their story, but
mm,
it also doesn't require me to keep talking myself as an introvert, right? Like so it's again, it's how can we leverage who you are
mm.
naturally, right? How can we leverage that so that you are now using the thing that you are good at? And it doesn't require you to become someone else.
Well, that is reassuring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see here. I think that before I let you go, I do want to ask you if you would like to say something about Families Forward Charlotte on your profile. Is that something you're
Yeah.
active in?
It is. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share the incredible mission of Families Forward. Charlotte, I'm on the board of directors, and it's an incredible nonprofit organization that works with, well, I shouldn't say works with, it supports families who are struggling with housing and security. And it's a comprehensive program that not only supports the housing need, but also the needs of children and the experiences that they're having as a result of not being permanently housed. And so it is an absolute gem in the Charlotte area. It serves an incredible purpose, and anyone who's interested, I encourage them to look at the website Families Forward Charlotte and support the organization. It's incredible. It is truly um, an incredible opportunity for me to serve on the board.
Yeah, and well, you took the time to put that in your profile and write uh, for a description. So I encourage our listeners to learn more about that nonprofit in Charlotte. And so I can learn more about that on your profile on LinkedIn. And that website again for the training assessment is Dr. Carrie Graham, and that's DrCarrieGraham.com/training assessment. Did I get that?
Yes, you got it. You got it. It is a complimentary free resource that I encourage people to use. And even if you've got a long-standing training program, there's always opportunities to make improvements. And the reason I know that to be true, even for leaders in industry, is because the people change.
Mm-hmm.
Change. Who you're hiring has evolved in the last year. The people you're coaching has evolved in the last year, even if the avatar or the demographic or that how you describe them as ideal clients has remained the same, what they bring to the table has changed. And for that, your training should change as well. So I encourage all organizations that use training to definitely use the training assessment.
Well, that is an excellent point. Yes, we do evolve. I thank you so much. And I want to have you back again. So till next time, Dr. Graham, I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. And I encourage your audience that they do have access to a great business coach in you, Elizabeth, as bringing a service. But yes, it's a joy to join you today.
Awesome. All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name's Elizabeth in Floyd, Virginia. This has been an episode of Dear Business Coach.